Well, doesn't every woman lust for a man that wears way more makeup than she does? I have to talk about the romance scammers. They have been pretty strange lately, and they've come back even harder than before. This has been one of the strangest weeks of my life. That's been laundry. Okay. Um, if you know who I am, great. If you don't know who I am, I'm Suzanne Tickemeyer. I used to write a column for Pathos called No Longer Quivering. It dealt with the quiverful evangelical movement. Think more Duggars, less, hey, number one fan. Think more Duggars and less something like your sweet little average Baptist church. Think non denomination, don't follow a denomination or kind of making it up as they're going along. That follow Bethel and whatever the latest teaching is with whomever. That's what it was like. That's what it was. And I finally woke up and smelled the coffee hardcore about 18 years ago and got out after a long time there. And I am still processing my experience. That's why I'm writing a book, even though I am seriously editing it hard right now, rewriting parts of it, because I am no longer angry at all those people. And I don't want to come across quite as angry as I was in my first writing of it. Okay, so don't harass anybody I'm talking about. Don't go to the real Paul Stanley and paste on his page. This crazy woman is saying that she's talking to you. No, all these guys are fakers, okay? They're all fakers. These are my opinions, these are my experiences. Mileage may vary wherever you are. Like I said, doesn't every woman want a man who wears more makeup than her? You know, the ironic thing about all this is Stanley is exactly the same age as my own dear husband, who is still having bodily conniption fits, and we're still spending way too much time at the doctor's office having his wounds redressed and having the incision assessed, do this and do that. I'm just kind of over it. If you don't know, I'm talking about he had cancer. He had a serious case of cancer. They took it all out. The surgery was a lot longer and more invasive than what they said. His recovery hasn't gone well. The incision hasn't healed. Still working on that thing healing. So I've been through the ringer and back and forth to the hospital. So this is a really strange week for me in a lot of ways because of that. My moods have been kind of up and down too. So I haven't come back to my usual YouTube schedule as a result. And we've had some weird conversations between my husband and I in the last couple of weeks since he's been home after his last bout in the hospital because it's just bringing up all kinds of weird stuff. I would say weird trash, but it really isn't. It's things that you need to talk about. He was talking about somebody who was too flat chested and rejoicing over my size and said, dude, they've shrunken. So we've had some weird combos. It's been weird up and down. And in the middle of this, Trump's 10,000 trillion Paul Stanley fakers. Now, ever since I reached a certain age of retirement, I have been approached by these romance scammers left, right, and center. I'm going to give you a little small tutorial of what the Nigerian scammers look like and how they'll approach you when you get my age. Why are they approaching women in my age group? Well, we're retiring. We're settling in with our little nest eggs to do various things. Live in Costa Rica by the beach. Go crazy with 10,000 Angora goats in the yard. Yeah, all sorts of fun stuff people are doing. And I have so many friends that are doing hobby farms and things that just make me laugh. They fill me with joy. So they're approaching women who are coming into a time when men are few and far between, that women have outlived men quite a bit. And they're sitting usually on wealth accumulated, the accumulated retirement funds of a lifetime. So that is why we're getting all of these guys. If you get a guy who tries to friend you on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and you're of a certain age like I am, and the name is kind of off. Like maybe it's his name is Joan, Jone, no S, Michael. Okay. So they get the first name and the second name mixed up. There's usually some sort of common name that is mangled in some way, shape, or form, like an S left off. So when you pull up your profile, you look because they have tried to friend you. You are looking at this thing going, okay, your school, you have down your school as college, and you have the name of a place that doesn't even have a university or college in any way, shape, or form. You've mangled the name of the school. You said something like College of Army instead of saying West Point. Those are all tells. When you start looking through the common interests and you see that some of the interests are strange bands in other countries, particularly in Africa, but they can literally be anywhere in the world. They can be Russian bands, they can be, Eastern European bands. Chances are it's a scammer. And scammers will also pretend to be one of certain occupations. You'll frequently see military, and they always claim to be somewhere on a military mission that you can easily look up and see if his that unit is there. Many times it's not. I've had them tell me, "Oh, I'm in a peacekeeping mission over in Syria." It's like, "No, we don't have any troops in Syria." I've looked it up, and the unit you're saying that you're part of doesn't exist, number 1, and they don't have anybody there. So we got those guys. So you got the military. They'll pretend to be a surgeon or a doctor, usually an orthopedic surgeon, but not necessarily. They were also claimed to be someplace that is not even possible for him to be. Okay. Doing some big mission. I am with like say it on there. Currently with what do they call those guys? The guys in Belgium, the world courts. I'm with such and such, but instead of saying it outright and saying it in a normal way, it'll be all messed up. So you got all these red flags. Most of the time, it's either widowed with several children or one child. And you can take their photos. It's always some grinning everyman and run them on Google image search and find out usually where they got the image and what it means, whose image it is. Sometimes to contact the people and say, hey, so and so is using your image for romance scamming. And sometimes it's just advertising or like clip art stuff that they have altered just enough for it not to jump out at you. So the Paul Stanley thing and the celebrity, I'm a celebrity, get me out of here edition of the scammers comes into play because of all things, they're counting on you being too cowed by the idea that you're talking to some celebrity. They're counting on that. Can anybody hear me or am I just completely cut out? Because if I'm cut out, I'm going to stop. I'm going to refilm this and I'm going to upload it. Somebody, anybody, somebody, please. I know you guys are out there, at least a couple of y'all. Somebody say, you can hear me? Okay. Before I continue on, because this is kind of convoluted, and some people told me the other day I hadn't properly explained this. I'm properly explaining it. So Paul Stanley is a rhythm guitarist and singer for a band known as Kiss. They're a worldwide phenomenon rock band. They're not one of my favorites. I don't care for their music for a variety of reasons, but mostly because I don't intend to enjoy music that is just all about sex. Songs like Lick It Up, Let's Talk About Sex. That's well and good if you like that, but it's just not my thing, okay? and I'm just too old and cranky for that crap. Now, where I started following Paul Stanley on Facebook, which is the thing that started this whole conniption fit, was he started painting in acrylics, and I thought that was fascinating because, if you well know, I paint, and I paint and do all kinds of other stuff. And between that and his book, I thought those were fascinating, fascinating second acts in his life. So I would occasionally sound off on his pictures and things. Like this morning, he posted that he's going to be at a art gallery in McLean, Virginia, which is not far from where I used to live. I live just outside of Warrenton, and I just said, "Dang, you're going somewhere near where I used to live for 30 years. Now that I moved away, I'm not going to be back." So I kind of laughed over that a little bit, and that was all it took. Suddenly, they all started piling in like crazy. No lie, I've had at least a dozen of these guys friend me, and I'm kinda like going, "Boom, boom, knock them out tonight." But the one I wanted to talk about tonight, a couple of different ones. One of them is one of the Paul Stanley fakers that actually started talking to in depth and detail and started, um he called me in just the exact moment a couple days ago. I was having a very bad morning. I was sitting here, I was crying, I was not having a good day. The stress of everything we had been going through had gotten to me. I still was facing giant piles of laundry because the bladder control is not 100% returned from my husband. So that means, and he has to shower with special soap. It's a whole big thing. So it's really bumped up the amount of laundry I have to do quite a bit every single day. And it has just not been fun being me the last couple of weeks. So I'm just kind of sitting here crying. And this faker reached out to me, and instead of me, starting my game and coming up with a persona, I just started so I said, I'm at the bottom. I'm just at the bottom right now. I'm just crushed by the weight of this whole thing." And I started talking about it with him, which is kind of weird because I've never done that with a scammer before. It's always pick a story, screw with them. Always, always, always. Going back many years ago when I used to mess with the Nigerian scammers that would write you. I believe I've posted before, but I'm gonna mention it. I actually posted some checks that one of my baiting, profiles was sent from Nigerians. One of them was $8 million drawn on the Central Bank of Nigeria, so the bank doesn't exist, the account doesn't exist. Well, there is a Central Bank of Nigeria, but its logo is very different. So I have this pile of fake checks they've sent me, and total like $32,000. So every now and then I will, "Hey, anybody got an ID for IP Freely?" "Sir, IP Freely," because that's who the checks are made out to, and that's one of my baiting skies disguises. So Facebook, when they started doing the Messenger, added a whole new wrinkle and dimension. So anytime I say anything on Paul Stanley's Facebook, even the most innocuous comments about art of all things, these guys pile out. And they were piling out like crazy today. And I was already talking to one of them in some depth, but like I said, I was very depressed. And I started actually just, instead of running a scam, I started talking to him and saying, "Hey, you've reached somebody who's at the bottom right at this second." And we've been having a really good conversation. It's not Paul Stanley like at all, not what I expect, of course, because it's not Paul Stanley. And I'm waiting to see which direction this all goes, whether there's a money grab at some point, because there sure will be at some point. That's where these guys, what they live for is to separate you from your retirement funds. So I got this one I'm talking to, and it's interesting, but in the meantime, all these other ones are popping up like popcorn. And I'm like, "How can you be the real Paul Stanley when I'm talking to so many other Paul Stanleys? Can you tell me why I have a dozen Paul Stanleys contacting me on Facebook this evening?" And so I'm like running them through the wood chipper tonight rather than talking to them. But what is interesting, the wrinkles that I've had the last couple of days too, is I've had a fake Matt Damon. I've never once said I even like a Matt Damon film anywhere online. There is a fake Kevin Spacey that's already tried to hit on me, and it's like, dude, you came out as gay. Why would you be hitting on me if you were Kevin Spacey? So I dealt with that one quickly. But the funniest one was some guy named Hardy who he gave me the whole spiel. In fact, I should pull it up and read it because it was kind of mean. It was mean, 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 mean. Let's see. Okay. Hello, my pretty lady. I know this is like a dream come true to you. Thank you for being a fan. You know, my response to him was, who are you? I had no idea who this guy was. And then I said, why would I be impressed? And then I went and looked up his music and I listened to a song or two and I said, oh, not my style. Not my style at all. Nothing against the country music he does. I do like some country music, but this ain't for me. So I just was like, dude, you are barking up the wrong damn tree. And I actually said to him, I can pull it up again. I said, you picked the wrong person to approach. I thought you might be another drooly, disgusting Paul Stanley, or maybe somebody trying to trauma dump after reading my years of writing at uh, Pathos. And he never replied. So, and it's kind of funny because I have one of the stupid Paul Stanleys is still trying to pursue the conversation. And I keep saying, dude, don't you know what we talked about? Acting like, and telling him, hey, I've met you. Don't forget that I've met you, dude. I met you back in 1975. So you're going to tell me this is you after all these years? I don't think so. Number one. Number two, there's no way. And when you tell them that you've met them, they always go, oh, yeah, yeah, I remember you. Why do you think I reached out to you? BS. You do not remember anybody that far back, that insignificant to your particular life experience. I'm doing better, Lulu. I was doing pretty horrible. And I think it's just the up and down of recovering from what my husband's thing was, what he went through, because it was pretty traumatic. And these idiots are just inserting themselves and wanting to talk. So I'm having some fun tonight. I'm smacking them all around. I'm smacking them all around. And when I figure out what it is, the one I'm talking to in depth wants, I'll let you guys know. And I'm probably going to post the entire conversation somewhere because it's kind of intense. And I said a lot of stuff that I normally would not tell some damn stranger. I don't even know why I did it. I was just started talking to him about, yeah, I'm about the lowest I've felt in ages. It was morning. I have had some issues with balancing my blood sugar, with making my knee act right. I think I've got to cut my metformin back. I think I'm take there. Don't think I'm eating enough to justify the amount of metformin they have me on. Having a loved one who's critically ill means everyone who lives with him is critical to have been there. Yeah, that's the thing. That is the thing. And with him, I don't know why I lost the trash can. It fell off my desk. With him, the other thing is it's just been so ongoing. Like at one point, they took over the wound care at the clinic because they could see I was overwhelmed, the daily wound care, and said, "Well, I don't quite understand why you're not doing this. This is because I'm doing 50 trillion other things on top of this. So I am doing the wound care, but I'm not doing it 3 and 4 times a day. So we finally have moved past the wound care phase where they did it and then I took over when we got to once a day. But it was so much that it's been crushing. I'm probably gonna reach out to my former therapist and see if I can book some type of online session with her just to push past through this and get where I need to be. I'm going to start exercising again. I've had to wait until my right knee calmed down and my back and everything else because that was the other thing that happened with all of this is my own body kind of went into conniption fit. It was like I posted a picture of an engine panel where every light was on, every warning light was on, and said, "This is Jim and this is me right now." Because that was pretty much how it was when he got that sick. My own body started doing crazy things like throwing my knee out, throwing my back out, my knees full of huge out of the blue, and, I started having problems with my blood sugar going up, down, around. I've been parenting a medically fragile child for 19 years, truly medically fragile. Not feel sorry for me, medically fragile. That's a rough place to be. I did that for a couple of years, but she got better, and, I was able to back off, and that is a whole different can of worms too, when you have to start backing off when the problem starts resolving and you're still in panic mode, that's another thing there. And she came to stay with me when my husband was in the hospital in San Jose. She flew right in. I was really shocked. I told her, "We're going to the hospital in San Jose. It's just 5, 6-hour ride from here. It's the hospital that the insurance insists we use, and that's fine. It's a nice hospital. It's very modern, but it's a little ways." So I got in the car and started driving. We got there 9 o'clock at night. They finally put him in a room around 1 AM. 1 AM, we went to bed. I got up the next morning, and she was there a few hours later. Took a taxi right to the hospital from the airport, and I was surprised but happy to see her because it's hard to do all that stuff by yourself, and she helped me so much. She was so precious to me at that time because she hauled me away. She forced me to eat, got regular food. We got a hotel room, a fairly nice one. And we would come back from seeing him 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, going there, like, maybe 11 to, like, 4, 11 to 5, see the doctors, all of that. Go back to the hotel room, I would pack my knee in ice. We would order takeout, watch an hour or 2 of TV, and go to bed. I spent a lot of time with her. But the thing I wanted to say about that, besides the fact that I'm just still blown away by her love and care of me, is that, I could see she still has lingering echoes of what happened to her when she was 4, especially that first horrible year when she was quite fragile. I couldn't do it without my husband. I can imagine that, Lulu. I did a lot of the stuff I did with her without my husband because he worked in Washington, DC at the Bureau of Labor, the Department of Labor, Bureau of Labor Statistics for many years, and it was a long, long commute from where we were. So he was just completely worn out when he got home, and I just never tried to put much on him at home as a result. I never asked him to clean or fix anything, and I tried to just have dinner ready. So it was not even an option that he was gonna step in there and take care of her except on the weekends, and you just can't run on empty so long, and for me, I think that's what happened this week is I got to empty, and she's going back, of course, and because she has a job, a career like my other 2 do as well. They all 3 of them are work in great fields and they're self-supporting. It's the best thing a mother could want. And so she went back, and I told her the day, I said, "I wish she could have stayed longer." Because on the other end, getting back here was just so stressful. And I had a huge box of medicines, everything they could imagine. They wanted me to give him insulin shots, and I saw his blood sugar numbers. Says, "Why are you giving him insulin? They aren't high enough to give him insulin. Just give the poor man metformin." So we were going through that as well, but I could see echoes of what happened to her playing out again in her fear for her father and I. And before he started doing so poorly after the surgery, I was treating this like there's no reason for you to come. He's gonna go in, he's gonna have surgery, he's gonna be fine. Well, it's not quite how it played out. Can really strain a marriage to have chronically ill child? Yes, it can. I think where you stop fighting the strain in the mind and just succumb to it being what it is helps. That's true with anything like that. Mhm. When I came down with mastocytosis, mast cell disorder, half the battle for me was accepting the fact that I some of the things I used to do were not doable anymore for me. And that was a hard thing. That was a really hard thing. That was the thing that took me from being in the workforce to writing for a living. It was the impetus. So I was able to make that transition. My mental leap, I mentioned mental health services earlier. I have a wonderful therapist I used to see who helped me with my transition with my illness. And I had 2 things going on at once. I had the illness transition and I had, leaving my church. All of that occurred at the exact same time. And considering it was a church that didn't believe in admitting you were sick and believed that all that stuff was from demons, it was a hard row to hoe for me. I just had a real tough time with everything going on in my head. Yes, go with the flow and find yeah, the position that you still have, exactly. And even if you have to let go of things, there are always better things around the corner. There's always other things. Maybe you can't do X, Y, and Z. Watch so many art videos, so many. Some of them I will take a turn at what they're doing. Like, I got very fascinated with flow painting, where pour paintings where you pour the paints. I'm not very good at it. I tried my hand at it, but I did pick up watercolors and started doing pretty decent with it. Going back outside to garden. Okay, I'm glad, Lulu, because this I'm just talking about weird, hard things today. These idiots are inserting themselves in. I will say this, these guys are not the usual bumbling Nigerians. Those guys, I'll trip up every time. These guys are a little more of a challenge. And it's been kinda game on for me with these guys because I know what the goal is. It's to take your retirement money from you. They take hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions off women, off unsuspecting women who may be alone for the first time in their lives. And there's it's just adding insult to injury. And that kind of economic upheaval can be huge. I had a girlfriend who her father and mother retired early because they had made over $1 million in the stock market with their retirement funds. And then 9/11 happened, and their entire stock portfolio almost disappeared. I bought heavily into the market after 9/11 because of that, because the prices were insanely low at that point. But you see people get hurt like that, and that kind of stress ends marriages too. My friend's parents ended up divorcing. She ended up back at the bank working as a teller again because that is what she knew. I can't imagine being, 65 and having to go back to work again because with the mass sale, I can tell you right now, there's no way. And there's just no way. So my life here suits me fine. So what are you guys doing for Easter week? Because we're going into Holy Week, and I always enjoy Holy Week. When my son was at home, we would always watch Jesus Christ Superstar. We sing the parts. We always did that. That was our thing. And I miss him every year at Easter. I miss hearing him sing those parts. I miss the fun of that. I miss what I used to do at my old church was my own rituals at Easter where I would go through and read the story of Jesus coming into Jerusalem and all the terrible things that unfolded all the way to Good Friday and then the reveal on Easter morning. For me, oh, I probably have spoken too long then. Okay, I will go ahead and see you guys later. Enjoy your Easter week. I'm gonna be back to talk about it probably tomorrow, Easter. Love you guys. Thanks for watching, and avoid those scammers. They're bad news. They're dumb bad news.